the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line now that the schedule has been released. He is Brett Veach back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you doing, Brett?
Rich, how you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Had a chance to take a look at the schedule and watch some of these rookies out here with the vets, and just getting excited like everyone else for the 2022 season.
Okay. Are you getting some new luggage for September? Specific for your way that you're starting, Brett? I mean, my gosh, 3 out of the first 4 on the road. Your thoughts on your schedule, Brett?
Well, listen, it's certainly a tough way to open the season. Like you mentioned, 3 of those first games on the road, and starting out there in Arizona, and then the Week 4 game down there in Tampa will be a challenge. But you get these throughout the course of a 17-game schedule, and with the parity in this league, you get these waves every year. So I actually like it because
you do.
Typically, you know, you come out of the gate, and I'm going to knock on wood here. After training camp, with the preseason being shortened a little bit, hopefully we come out healthy, and you know, we're fresh, and then we have that bye right in the middle there. So at least there's a good chance we can get to this early portion of the schedule and have our team healthy and firing all cylinders, and then from there it's like every year. It's just the battle to survive, and hopefully we've done enough work this offseason to create a deep roster, and we have talent and we have a good team. But like any year, there's going to be games and matchups that go in different directions depending on the health of a team and where they are and how they're playing.
Well, not many teams have 3 out of 4 to start, and you're only one of 4 teams to have a 3-game road trip right in between. So does anybody from the Chiefs call the league and say what gives? I am serious, Brett, by the way, when I ask that question.
Yeah, well, we've answered the question, and Eric Stonestreet literally has 0 pull with Roger, although he may claim he does. So we know that to be true, that he has no say in this.
Yes.
No, look, I know it's a tough deal for the league, and they have to get all these games in. They got to make them fit, but we're also it's kind of one of those good problems to have. You have Pat Mahomes, and there's a need to see him, and there's a need to make sure that he's placed in various places at the right time and the right day of the year, and spread them out. And look, there's a lot of great players across the league, so I'm sure it's not the easiest thing to do, but they have those super high-tech equations that figure it out. There's nothing really we can do other than we knew we were playing these teams, whether it was home or away. We knew where the schedule was and how it all lined up. Many ways it looks tough, but sometimes the way it works out, it could be a blessing, depending on how the schedule falls out. It's funny because the schedule release thing has gotten so big, and it's a great deal for the fans, and they get to kind of do their predicting and going through the schedule. But I mean, the reality of it is, I mean, it's such a long season. And I remember last year I had some family members call and work through the schedule and kind of go through all the scenarios. And then they're like, yeah, and then we have Cincinnati at the end of the year. That'll be great having them late, easy win. I mean, they were a team that was picking in the top 10, and that was a team that ended our season and beat us twice in a 4-week span. So teams change a lot over the course of a season.
Yes.
The chemistry changes. The team changes. In this league, if you're just a tick off, or just if you're a tick better than you were a year before, you're really good. And if you're a tick worse than you were the year before, you're really bad. And so how that all plays out remains to be seen. There's a lot of work that we have to do to get back to a 5th straight AFC Championship game, but I like where we are, and I like the infusion of youth on our roster. So we'll enjoy this now and take a look at it, but know that once we get to St. Joe's for training camp, we'll take it one game at a time.
Brett Veach, general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, here on the Rich Eisen Show, and you just mentioned losing to the Bengals twice in 4 weeks to end your season and regular season. That definitely affected the eventual seedings, and then the Bengals in the AFC Championship game in your house the previous season, losing in the Super Bowl caused you to go and say, I know exactly what I'm fixing. And word is that you said that literally leaving the building. You hit the heck out of your offensive line, and you've got a highly improved unit there. What did you leave the AFC Championship game this time thinking about your roster and addressing it? What was that What was this time about, Brett? Do
Yeah,
you think?
it was a little bit different, certainly than the Super Bowl experience against Tampa Bay. That was just one of those doomsday scenarios where we had an older offensive line, and in addition to that, we had our right tackle who was about to retire, and then the left tackle had a season-ending injury. So that, in addition to the job of those guys, are to protect, what we feel is the best player in the NFL. So that was certainly one of those really obvious, we got to go. There's nothing more important than protecting Pat Mahomes, and we certainly felt good about our plan last year and what we did, and liked that unit a lot. This year it was a little bit more of overall just we need to get better on both ends, and we have a lot of great young quarterbacks, not just in this league, but in particular the AFC, and then again in our division. And so we have to continue to provide the quarterback with weapons and protection, and then we certainly have to try to infuse the defense with more depth and more talent, in particular speed on the back end, and try to build up our depth on the D line. So it was more of an approach that we have to get better in all phases this offseason, and I think we were able to do that, and I think the way we got there was a little bit unique. And I think our plan initially in the offseason was to, we had Orlando on the tag, and we wanted to take care of Tyreek and then kind of address the defense. And then the way the market shifted with the receivers and the way the market shifted with the veteran defensive linemen, we kind of altered our course of action and decided to go through the draft almost entirely. And, again, I think we're happy with the way it turned out, but there's going to be a lot of young guys you're going to see out there on the defensive side. But I think that we're very hopeful that these guys are going to be who we think they are.
Okay, Brett, there's a lot that you just put down there. I'm going to try and pick up a couple of those breadcrumbs, and I'm assuming you'll know exactly which one I'm starting with, and the word Tyreek, because you said that you left the season last year to address his contract first, and the wide receiver market changed. His situation, where we all woke up in the middle of March hearing that he has requested a trade and you were about to oblige him, really is the I think the centerpiece of the craziest month in the history of the NFL. Stephon Diggs summed it up. He tweeted out at the very moment all this broke, 4 simple words: "The hell going on?" is what he tweeted. So I will ask you that question: the hell going on? What happened with Tyreek? Best you can explain, Brett.
Well, listen, it's probably a combination of a few things. The season ended, and as you know, Rich, when teams go to the combine, they certainly go there to evaluate the college prospects, but they also are there to discuss contracts with their players and the agents that are there. So the season ended, and again, the game plan for the offseason was to, get more depth and talent on the defensive side and see if we can take care of Tyreek. And we had a chance to talk to Drew Rosenhaus at the combine on multiple occasions, and I think we laid an initial framework for a contract, and we felt things were kind of trending in the right direction. All big contracts take a few weeks, and some take a few months. But we left there, and we felt like we were in a pretty good place. And then, as you know, the wide receiver market just exploded and went in a crazy different direction. So we were looking at a situation where if we wanted to acquire, let's say, a veteran defensive end, and where that market went, we would do so, but then it would be very difficult to do Tyreek. And how could we sign a veteran defensive end to a contract like that and not address Tyreek's situation, right? That would have been a problem, and it wouldn't have been something that we would have done given our relationship with Tyreek and all that he has done for the organization over the years. And on the flip side, when the market went to where it went, if we did that, in addition to carrying an Orlando Brown tag, in addition to the contracts that we have, then there'd be no way to address the defense and to do anything on the defensive side. So it was either an all or nothing scenario that we just took a step back, and this is the great thing about how we operate here. We certainly go through all the scenarios, and one of the scenarios was that if we couldn't get something done, this possibility. And so it made sense that if you really wanted to add some weapons and to invest in, multiple players and multiple positions, that this may be the best scenario for us. Because, as I mentioned, if you do Tyreek, it's going to be hard to sign some of these veteran defensive linemen. And it also puts you in a bind in years to come. And if you do the defensive linemen, I mean, you'd probably have to tell Tyreek, we couldn't do anything this year. So, again, we would have never gone that direction. So after taking a step back and talking things through with Andy and with Clark, it just made sense for us to entertain this trade. And when we realized that we can get multiple picks, a 1, 2, 4, 4, and a 6, that this would be a way to hit draft and receiver, throw a ton of resources on the defensive side of the football, and then also infuse money back into the cap, both in the short and long term, so that next year we can be a player in free agency. And so this route that we decided to take, it really opened up what we think are many avenues to improve the roster over the next few years.
Fascinating. I mean, that's exactly what generally managing is. That's a general manager right there. And I appreciate your walking us through all of that. So which contract wrecked the buffet table more than it was it the Adams one? Was that the one that basically took anything that was on the table and just flipped it over at that point, Brett?
I think as you saw, Rich, they all did, and Christian Kirk came right out of the bat and opened it up, and then Devontae Adams, and then it was just nonstop, one after the other. So we kind of thought, well, if we do this here, we might be out of free agency the next 2 or 3 years, and look, this game is, it's so hard to be good year in and year out, and you just, more than anything, you have to have a roster that can handle the physicality of this game and, the injuries. And, year in and year out, teams are just holding on to get to the bye week so they can take a breath. And it's hard. And so, like I said, when we thought about this opportunity long and hard and to infuse, not just the picks but the cap space over the next few years, it made a lot of sense to us. And I think it worked out for both parties. I know that's kind of a cliche there, and it's like, sounds good, everybody says it, but I really do. I think that Miami has a chance to do some things with Tyreek, and listen, he lives there and his family's there, and it was important for him to be there, and that was a place he wanted to be. So that's he deserved that, and he certainly has helped us reach heights that many thought were impossible over the years. So I think he was deserving of that contract, and I was happy for him. And then, like I said, I was just happy that we were able to get resources to help continue to build this thing for the next 5-10 years. And I think that we've taken the right step, and that won't be easy. And we're going to have a lot of young guys play football for us this fall. There's going to be a transition period, but after the draft ended and from the time they've been here through the rookie minicamp, we've been certainly impressed with them and their attitude. So we're excited about getting this thing rolling.
A few more minutes left with Brett Veach, the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll be honest with you, Brett. I'm sitting there with Daniel Jeremiah in the booth at the Combine watching the wide receivers work out. I see Skyy Moore, and I'm like, that's perfect. He's perfect for the Kansas City offense, but they have Tyreek Hill, so why are they going to go get him? I'm just wondering if you put a pin in Skyy Moore, seeing him or at the Combine and whatever evaluation you had, and then when Tyreek was going in a direction where you thought, okay, we might have to move him, that you removed the pin on Skyy Moore and you wound up drafting him. I wonder if that happened.
Yeah, well, listen, there's certainly a few receivers that we liked, and I think the one benefit or advantage that we had going through this process after we make the trade, and we know that now we're going to enter the draft with 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, and 2 4s. We entered the draft looking at the board and knowing that there were really good numbers in regards to depth of the draft at both the receiver and the DM position. The corner position was a little bit different. There were good players and good prospects, and certainly there'll be some late round corners that develop. It happens every year, but just from the outlook of the draft and where the numbers stood out to us were at D end and at wide out. And so I think that kind of looking back on the draft, it kind of shows why we did what we did early on when we moved up for the corner.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a risk because you want to get everything, but sometimes if you make a move, then the wide out of the DN that you really wanted, they're not there. I think we rolled the dice a few times, and it turned out to come up the way we wanted to. But George Karlaftis was a guy that we usually, in fact, we talked about trading up for him as early as 2 weeks before the draft. But as we started to study the team needs more, and as we started to study the depth of each position, it just looked like there were going to be some good DNs there at the end of one, but the corners may be gone. And I think you saw that with us moving up, and then right after we moved up, the Bills moved up to take a corner. And then lo and behold, George was still there at 30, and then I think similar situation played out with the wideouts. There was going to be a run of wideouts. It was just when it was going to start, and it started right around that period there. I think when we took Skyy right before that, the Georgia kid went and the Cincinnati kid went. So it's just kind of handicapping those pockets and when they're going to go. And I think our staff did a great job and our coaches did a great job of helping us work through the process. But Skyy Moore was the guy that we thought, even if we had Tyreek, he'd be a guy that can come in and do different things. So he's a smaller guy, as you know, Rich, but he plays big. He has longer arms. He catches everything. He's a great route runner. He's great after the catch. You can move him around and play him in different positions. And I've always, people have asked about, a specific type of receiver, and I think we operate in a more general sense of we're going to find good players, and we have an outstanding coaching staff, and they're going to highlight what they can do, and they're going to put them in positions to make plays for us. So whether that's a 6'1" guy, a 5'11" guy, I mean, we're just going to find good football players that we like and leave it up to the coaches to put them in positions to push the ball down the field and score points.
Yeah, man, Karlaftis wore so many people out. He was unblockable in some games I was watching with Purdue, and obviously you if you're going to go shopping for cornerbacks, Washington is a pretty damn good spot the last few years in the draft. And so just, to wrap up our conversation, Brett Veach, you've referred to your division a couple times here. We all know it's now the deepest end of the pool in the NFL with the players that have come in from other spots now, Russell Wilson obviously being the most famous one, and Devontae Adams being 1A on that front. So the conversation, many people are like, just when this happens, the Chiefs wind up, and as you pointed out, it kind of, your hand was forced in a way based on cap and everything else, giving up one of the most incredible advantages, Mahomes to Tyreek Hill. How will this offense look? Is it any different, do you think, or it'll just be similar with different names in it, Brett Veach?
I think it'll. I think it'll be different. I think it would. It'd be a little crazy to think that, as you mentioned, Rich, when you take away one of the most dynamic players over the last decade, when you remove him from the offense, some of the, our play style will certainly look a little different. However, I'm not so sure that's a bad thing. I think that we've certainly, when Pat came on the scene as a first-year starter in the RPO and the vertical game, I think that teams were, slow to catch up to that, and we were able to just kind of rip up and down the field and score a lot of points. And there's been a lot of adjustments and coverage looks, and now some of them we've seen over and over. But I think what the cool thing about this is when you have someone like Pat Mahomes and you have the creativity of an Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, I think it's exciting. New challenges are always exciting. So will we look exactly the same? No. But, we've said this many times, there are multiple ways to score points and move the ball down the field. So I think the approach this offseason is, we're going to have some core fundamental principles that we always have, and we'll look to execute them. But I think it's an exciting new challenge to get this new core of receivers, Juju Smith and MVS, and McCole, who is coming off a good year, and then throw in Skyy Moore, add another lineman, add a couple running backs, and you may see a little bit more running, but you may see a little bit more short game stuff. But I think it's exciting. I think the chess game is always exciting. But I think we have really good chess players in Andy and Pat, and I think it's going to be something that they're going to embrace. And yeah, will it look the same? No, but I think it can be very close to as successful.
And, oh, by the way, a guy on a future Hall of Fame trajectory in Travis Kelce, who's one of my favorites. Hey, Brett, man, thanks for the time. This was fascinating. Great, a great chat. I truly appreciate it.
Always, Rich. Always love hopping on
the
phone with you, and look forward to catching up soon.
I do, too. Thank you. That's Brett Veach, General Manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, giving you a fascinating glimpse into what goes into the mind of a talent evaluator and a roster builder at this point in time, when there's booming markets at wide receiver and a draft coming up and a combine that just happened, and you need these pieces, you need that pieces. And you got a contract at a quarterback that at the time sounded insane. How they ever going to build a roster? And then as the years go by, it's like, oh, that's not a bad one.
It's a deal.
It's a deal. It's a deal. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.